All right, so we're in 11 honors lit today, and we're looking at the last chapter, which is conclusion. Would you turn there? I know you did this. We need to review it. It's on page 7. We might just review some of these while we're at it. I think we did some of these, but number 4. What did he say he learned? We did. I know we reviewed. We did it, and we reviewed it, and this is reviewing again. But what did he say he learned from his experiment number 4? I could ask any of you. Yeah. So,
If you stay confident, go towards your goals, you can go far.
see, are those your words or his?
Not sure.
I was going to ask you to explain it, so just kind of elaborate on it.
All right, gotcha. So, well, basically, what he's saying, is if you keep, doing what, you want to do, and you know that that's what you want to do, and you keep working at it, you're eventually going to get somewhere.
Right, again, it's just common sense. You combine your ambitions, your dreams with hard work. You can have the greatest dreams, but if you don't build, they're up here. These are your goals. They're up in the air, figuratively speaking. You're trying to reach for them, but you're not going to get them just by dreaming. You know that. So a lot of what he says is just common sense. That's an example. And we did this one. So about keeping pace with your companions. I know we reviewed that, but it's essential to his philosophy. What does he mean by that? And would you remember? I think you even answered it the other day. But it says, what does he mean by keeping pace with your companions? It actually says if you do not keep pace with your companions, if a man does not keep pace with his companions, perhaps it is because he hears a different drummer. Let him step to the music which he hears, however measured or far away. Maybe you weren't the one that I'm thinking of. Okay. Anybody want to handle that one? Yeah, Lily.
I said not everyone was meant to do the same thing, so it's okay if your path is different than someone else's.
So he's encouraging nonconformity because since we're all made differently, we don't have to act just like, look just like, think just like everybody else. If you're doing something different, maybe that's because you're just simply on a different route. Where does the Bible talk about something similar? Man did not invent the idea of diversity. It's baked into creation by God. But do you remember any place in the Bible? I'll narrow it down. The New Testament, where anybody talks about diversity. He talks about it, and I think it's in Corinthians. I wouldn't expect you to remember that, but he talks about how the body of Christ, many people have different gifts, and not everybody's, he uses the body of Christ, okay? Not everybody's an eye, not everybody's a foot, not everybody's a hand. So it would be ridiculous for the finger to say, I'm not an eye, that's why I'm not as important. And he also talks, and Paul does, if your finger hurts, does the rest of the body ignore it? It could be the smallest thing on you, but if it hurts, does the rest of the body say, I don't care about the nose, I don't care about that finger, just do your thing. We got things to do. I mean, it's a brilliant analogy because sometimes it's that finger, that smallest thing that's hurting that you cannot get comfortable. Your whole body cries out because of one little thing. And he said that's what it means to be in the body of Christ. When there's a finger in the body, maybe one member of the body is hurting, we should all hurt with him. So I just love the idea. God created diversity. He gave us different gifts. Thoreau is talking about that very thing here. Maybe if you don't act like everybody else. Now, there are things that unify us. But I think it's worth noting. Do you remember the parable about the staff? Again, this is one we did the other day. Alistair, do you remember that one? I can't remember who answered that one. But he says, he gives a parable about a wise man who took a staff. He spent all his life trying to make the perfect staff.
What I have written down is time does not make perfect things. All things that are perfect are timeless.
Well, and the idea, Jeff.
I think we said
Yeah, and what is the result of having that striving for perfection or that focus on doing something well? What's the result of it?
Motivation to improve.
Right, and it's also perpetual youth. He said that the man did it through centuries and which is physically impossible. But his point was that if you do something well and you focus on it, it's almost, it keeps you young, like purpose. It's, again, you mentioned that, having purpose. Setting your mind on what you want to do and going after it, it's like keeping yourself young. All right, so we're down to number 7. This is what you did yesterday. It says, say what you have to say, not what you ought. Any truth is better than make-believe. You wouldn't have to look it up. It's on page 256. You wouldn't even have to put it into context. But what is he saying about speaking truth? So say what you have to say, not what you ought. Any truth is better than make-believe. Yeah.
This was more so in my words, but I kind of took it from what he said. I said, honesty and transparency spurs progress and growth. And then I said lies inhibit progress and delay growth.
I like that. We would agree with that. Truth, it's one of the chief things about our faith. It's true. Jesus, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. The world says that truth is relevant. Today's world does. It hadn't always said that, but you can make truth whatever you want it. That creates a lot of problems. Thoreau, I think, would be of the mind that truth is eternal. It doesn't change. You can't change it. If it's true now, it's always going to be true. And so he said, truth is always better than a lie or something that's not true. I guess it's not true, it's a lie. Turn to flip it. Remember, you're going to see these again when we have this test. You're going to see some of these. So you need to really understand them to get them right. I think we did this the other day, but number 8, reread the paragraph 256. We won't do that. I'll just read it. The statement, however mean your life is, meet it and live it. Do not shun it and call it hard names. It is not so bad as you are. It looks poorest when you are richest. The fault finder will find faults even in paradise. What does it mean by that? However mean, by that he means small, poor, insignificant. Meet it and live it, yes.
I think he's saying, like, it's indisputable that life is not perfect and hard, so it's better to have a mentality and accept it, so you can take control of your life and do the best with it.
He's not against improving your life, but he's also not, he's not for denying your life. So whatever you are in right now, you're not where you want to be, accept it for right now. Don't call it bad names, he says. Live the life you have. Doesn't mean you can't make it better, which is what, the castles in the air thing was about. If you have dreams, go after them. But don't call your life bad and miserable. You're wasting your time. Just accept, this is what I got to live with today. Can't do anything about it today, but I'm going to work on it. I'm going to get better. I like that, number 8. Number 9. Well, let's look at this. Take 259. Yeah, we'll read this. Sarah, do you have your book with you?
Yes.
Would you turn to 258? It's a short paragraph. I'm going to ask you to read it. We're going to answer
Wait, 258?
258 at the very bottom. The last paragraph, it runs over to 259.
Rather than love than money than fame, give me truth. I sat at the table where were rich food and wine in abundance and attendance. But sincerity and truth were not, and I went away hungry from the inhospitable board. The hospitality was cold as the ices. I thought that there was no need of ice to freeze them. They talked to me of the age of the wine and of the fame of the vintage. I thought of an older and newer and pure wine, of a more glorious vintage, which had not gotten and could not buy. The style of the house and the grounds and the entertainment passed for nothing with me. I call on the
Incapacitated.
incapacitated for hospitality. There was a man in my neighborhood who lived in a hollow tree. His manners were truly regal. I thought, or I should have done better than I called on him. Hi.
So he says, what is his point? He visits a rich man, he visits a king. All they could talk about at the rich man's house was the age of the wine and the man who grew it and made it. He went to a king, and he said that he had to wait in the hall, and he had no manners. There's a man in his neighborhood, he says, who lives in a hollow tree, so essentially homeless. He says his manners were regal. I should have done better if I'd called on him. What is his point here? Yeah,
Your belongings aren't what makes up your character.
say that again.
Your belongings aren't what makes up your character.
Yeah, he even says that. Where does he say that? I thought he said it right here. Anyway, that's exactly right. It's not what you have or even the way you look. It's something deeper, like you say, manners. I know you probably could care less about this, but over the last 3 years on Netflix, they've released this series called The Crown, and it charts. Have you seen any of it? Anybody watched it?
My parents do, or my parents have at least.
Well, me and Queen Elizabeth is our like this, because we share one big thing in common. I was born the year she became queen, so she's been queen 68 years, and she doesn't look like she's lost much of a step. And anyway, it's about her and her family, and sometimes I like them and sometimes I don't like them, and I don't even know how accurate it is because none of us really know much about them. But they are the coldest people on the face of the earth, according to this Netflix thing. They live in these castles in England, Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle, and they're huge, and they have like dozens and dozens and dozens of rooms, and yet it looks so old, it looks so dark, it looks so cold. Even in summer, it looks cold. And when they have visitors, they're incredibly. They make them look like, for instance, Charles. Charles is the one who's married to Camilla. You know this story, Diana? Remember Lady Diana? He was married to her, and they didn't get along. Then he married his mistress, Camilla, who he had as a mistress while he was married to Diana. Anyway, he was never hugged. Now, I'm not a big hugger. I don't know if your family are huggers or not. I'm not, but my family, I knew my mom and dad loved me, but we just didn't hug each other. I've become that way since having children, and my wife was more of a hugger. But he's in a room with his young son, Harry or William. The two guys are in the news all the time. And he wouldn't hug them. It's like he hadn't seen them in months. And the mother, Diana, she hugs him and everything. And Charles, he just kind of nods to him and walks off because he was never hugged. They are so cold, and I guess they have ultimate manners because that's sort of that's why they're there, to be precise and mannerly. But there's no heart in it. Again, as shown by this video, by these movies. He's saying the homeless guy who lived in the tree had more manners. As you were saying, it's character, it's not where you live. I would be honored. I mean, Lady Diana, she fell in love with Charles. He's the Prince of Wales. He's Prince Charming, right? And she was this teacher, and he showed an interest in her, and she was flattered. I mean, ladies, admit it. If some princess or some prince fell in love with you, I doubt if you'd turn him down. You were going to be now a princess, possible queen of a country. It'd be really hard to turn him down, and Lady Diana couldn't turn him down. But he never loved her, almost from the beginning. He never, according to this again, he never loved her. So I think this is the thing that Thoreau is getting to. Your hospitality, your manners are real manners that come from the heart, from the character, matter more than the cold, perfunctory. You do it just because it's you're supposed to, which is, there's no heart in it. I know you don't care anything about it, it's very historical. I don't know, I think you might be interested in it. It's a soap opera, it's a real soap opera, you know, it's these really things really happen. But I've been fascinated, I don't like them. If that's the purpose of the video, of the movie, then they achieved it with me. They've not portrayed them as very likable people. Let's read the last 3 sentences of the book, which is the last, thank you, which is the last paragraph. Ben, you got it right in front of you. Would you read that?
Where are we at?
261.
The last page, I do not say that John and Jonathan will realize all this, but such is the character of that moral, which mere lapse of time can never make to dawn. The light which puts out our eyes is darkness to us, only that day dawns to which we are awake. There is more day to dawn, the sun is but a morning star.
Anybody have any idea what he's talking about? The last words of this famous book, I don't know if you liked it, we didn't read maybe a fourth of it, maybe that much, I'm not sure. But it is a famous book, it's your book, I hope maybe someday you'll go back to it, maybe you'll read it. What does he mean? These are this is parting words in the book. The light which puts out our eyes is darkness to us. And that makes sense? If you stare at the sun, you're gonna go blind. So what good is that? You know, you can't, that light makes you dark. Only that day dawns to which we are awake. If you never woke up, you know, the day really never dawned. There is more day to dawn. The sun is but a morning star. Any suggestion what he's getting at? That kind of puts an exclamation point to his whole book, into his philosophy. Well, can I just suggest this, because it is the last question. He's all about hope. He's very optimistic. And that's why he loves morning. We talked about that. Of all the times of the day, morning is his favorite time because it represents possibilities and potentials. And he said the sun is but a morning star. It's like, we're always morning. It's always morning because there's always possibilities. There's always hope. There's always opportunities to make things better. I think it just describes his optimism, his belief that things will get better and can get better, and that your life can get better as long as you have that attitude. So we don't have much time. We have 5 minutes. The book is yours, but I know some of you, because we just looked at it, you have, I don't intend to give you a separate review sheet because you have so much of this material, but let me just remind you of what you should have. So if you have this stuff in front of you, see if you can find it. Some of you said it's in the locker at home. You can at least write this down, right? These are the sheets that you need. One would be the background.
Is this needed to study?
Yeah, these are things that you already have. So you're going to need to know. Thoreau's background, about Emerson, about I'm sorry. I'll come back to that. You're going to need to know those two things. A few dates. 1845 is when he goes in. 1847 is when he comes out. Maybe it's the other way around. He goes out in 1845 to Walden. He comes back in 1847. Yeah, he didn't live long, so no, I couldn't even tell you. I think he was born in 1817, but you can check that. But he wasn't 50 years old when he died. And you need to know about his philosophy of life and what he did for a living. He wrote another book. You know, so I'm just thinking off the top of my head what some of those. details are, all that's in the background. And then we did the first one, the chapter, these are all chapters, but we only did the first 35 pages, so I think it was page 7 to 35. And, so check those, he was talking about work, I remember he was talking about the 4 essentials. He started talking about simplicity, those are some of the themes in that first one. Then we did the one on, that's not the one we did next, the next one was, where I live. And what I live for. And there he talked about why so that's a question here I'm gonna ask you, why did he go to the woods? What was it like living out there? He talks about some of those things. He tried to buy a house, but he ended up not buying a house. He bought a house and then the guy wanted it back, so he just gave it back to him, he was very, laid back, we might call him, about that. But he ended up moving out here, building it, and why did he go in? What did he expect to do? All that's in Where I Live. And then the one about reading. And he defines what classics are. He defines why reading the classics are important, why spoken language is not as good as written language. Those are just 3 questions that come to mind, and let me do this quickly. Higher laws. And here he talks about hunting and fishing, he talks about drinking versus, getting high, so to speak, off the air and drinking water, eating meat or not eating meat. And then he talks about virtue and vice, morality, chastity, and the value of those things. And then finally, the conclusion, he tells us why he left. And we just went over some of these things. So get this together. Tomorrow we'll spend some time just reminding you kind of what questions are important. And we'll do this next week. So we'll see you.